You are listening to the Author Diary Entries podcast. I'm your host, Sagan Morrow, and this is episode number 191. Today is book release day for Kiss Me. This is book 8 in the Polyamorous Passions series, and it is the second story in Scarlett's trilogy within that series. I'm so excited. This is so wonderful. This has been a very long time coming. It's been a few years since I last published a book. We did it. We got through it. This is so exciting. Kiss Me is a character-driven, heartwarming short novel featuring the miscommunication trope, a very healthy dose of angst, found family, cute banter, a couple steamier scenes, the why choose trope, and a people-pleasing burlesque performer who is learning how to put herself first. It does feature a fair amount of exposition in a good way, in a really fun, interesting sort of way. And so because of that, you can enjoyably read this story on its own. But since it is the 8th book in my Polyamorous Passions series, and each book does build on the previous one, I would still recommend reading the whole series for a catch-up on what's going on. It's a lot of fun to have all of the full backstory of everything and to really get to know all of the characters throughout the series. So here is a little peek at what you can expect from the novel. It includes references to Zoolander, The Princess Bride, and 80s dance movies. There is a server who gives the wrong person a glass of champagne with an engagement ring in it. Oops. There's a lot of ongoing miscommunication and secrets. There are puns and wordplay. There's an unrequited or is it crush. There are two besties who bossily create a pros and cons list for Scarlett so they can make a major life decision for her. There are some very fun, bad attempts at coming up with a stage name. You get to see some slutty mimosas. We also see someone getting rescued after freezing on stage. There are confessions of love. There is a situation of being foiled into being hired for a bachelorette party, and truly so much angst. You can grab your copy of Kiss Me at your favorite ebook store or visit saganmorrow.com/books. Link is in the show notes. Now, in celebration of a release day today, I wanted to share with you some of my personal favorite parts about this novel and also do a reading from the book. This is kind of a spoiler light episode, so if you are the kind of person who does not like any spoilers, then go read the novel first and then come back and listen to this episode. Okay, let's dive in. We will begin with 5 of my personal favorite parts about this novel. Number 1, the opening scene is a bit of a bait and switch, and it sets the stage for the ending. Here is what I would suggest. Read the opening scene. Pause and ask yourself, is that how I expected the opening scene to wrap up? Did I realize what was going on in that opening scene? Then read the rest of the novel until the last chapter, so before the epilogue. Pause and ask yourself, is this how I expected the story to end? Then go back to that opening scene and compare it to how the story wraps up. I think you'll have some fun looking at it through that sort of lens. Number 2, the reference to the title in the book. So watch for a nod to the title, Kiss Me, in 2 different places. There is a scene in chapter 9 and another scene in chapter 14. What I love about the title is that it references this whole ongoing theme that's been building up for Scarlett's story across the entire series to date about things left unspoken versus fully expressing oneself and vocalizing her feelings, her wants, her needs. And those 2 scenes that reference the title also reflect Scarlett's passivity with letting things happen to her or waiting for other people to make a move compared to her being the one to take action on what she wants. So I really love it. The references to the title are kind of beautiful, very beautiful. Number 3, the relationship between the main character Scarlett and the owner of the Dusky Panther, Zach. I adore Zach, and I really adore his dynamic with Scarlett. Theirs is a platonic yet deeply important relationship, And it's an interesting contrast to Helen and her boss previously in the series, in which Helen experiences a will they, won't they moment. There's a little bit of a tension. There's a bit of a curiosity of the spark of something could potentially be there. But with Scarlett and Zach, on the other hand, it is purely platonic. And the familial aspect with Zach is very different from Scarlett's relationship with Emma and Helen. Emma and Helen are family to Scarlett, but they cannot understand the importance of her being her own boss, her having her own business, that kind of thing. And Zach truly does understand that. He understands her work in a way that Emma and Helen just won't be able to, because he's in the same sort of business that Scarlett is. There's a very sweet sibling-like relationship that develops between Scarlett and Zach. And by the way, a little spoiler for you, a little taste of what's to come in my next book. This actually, it sets the stage for the next book that I will be writing. So that's going to be the sequel to Small Town Stilettos. And in that book, Zach's actual sister is going to be the main character of that book, of that upcoming sequel to Small Town Stilettos. So we meet Zach's actual sister at the very end of this book. Number 4, the overlapping themes across the entire novel. There's a fair bit of foreshadowing and callbacks in Kiss Me, and the 3 main plot points, the romantic relationship between Scarlett and Pete, the business relationship between Scarlett and Zach, and the unrequited crush that Scarlett has for Wes, they all mirror one another with similar themes around exclusivity, trust, insecurities, expressing oneself versus holding things inside, etc. I think that this story in particular would be a really great one to discuss in a book club. I would be very curious to know whether you can see where the story is going to go, if any of the characters surprise you, if you guessed how the ending might unfold in advance, that kind of thing. So I think that this would be a very fun one to do in a book club. And I will actually do an episode with some book club discussion prompts for you. So grab your copy, get together some friends, or tell your book club that you are going to be using this one at your next book club meeting. And I will include the prompts in the next episode of the Author Diary Entries podcast. Number 5, the inner monologue and the banter between characters. I've mentioned before on this Author Diary Entries podcast about how much I love writing dialogue, and how the Polyamorous Passions series was something that I initially briefly thought of writing as a TV series rather than a series of books. Writing the back and forth banter between characters and writing the main character's inner monologue is so much fun, and I would say that tends to be where the comedy comes into my stories. I actually find that aspect of writing a novel to be fascinating. You can change the entire tone of a book based purely on the inner monologue of a character. It can transform a heavy or dramatic scene into a lighter or more humorous one. It gets very interesting how much the inner monologuing affects your reading of the story, which also, I would say, there is some humor and some comedic aspects in this book, Kiss Me, but it's partly due to Scarlett's, there's a lot of angst, there's a lot of angst, and there's like a lot more of a dramatic sort of lens to other parts of her inner monologue. So because of that, as I've mentioned in a previous episode here in the Author Diary Entries podcast, this book, Kiss Me, is much more of a chick lit rather than a rom-com. Some of my other novels are much more rom-com-y. This one is much more chick lit. It has more of the sort of dramatic undertones to it. So we do still get to see some of that humor in her inner monologue, but we also tend to see a fair amount of drama in her inner monologue for this particular book. So with that in mind, now that I've shared with you 5 of the things that I really enjoy personally about Kiss Me, now I want to share a reading from a scene that will actually give you some of Scarlett's inner monologue. You'll be able to see a little bit of it. Now, this is from chapter 6. It's about a third of the way through the novel. It is a little bit spoilery, I will say, me sharing this scene with you. But it's also a major part of the plot. So, if you don't like any spoilers, then stop listening to this episode right now and go read the book first. This particular scene that I'm going to share, you don't actually know in advance of reading it. Like, it's not mentioned in the book blurb or anything like that. So, if you don't want spoilers, then go read the book first, and then you can come back and hear me say the scene if you want. So you can grab your copy of Kiss Me at saganmorrow.com/books, or find it on Kobo, Kindle, Nook, etc. It is available on all major ebook store platforms. Okay, here we go. A reading from Kiss Me, Book 8 in the Polyamorous Passions series. A spot at my dream venue unexpectedly opened up, so we're taking it. We're getting married in 8 weeks. Can you believe it? 8 weeks. Wow, that's something. Scarlett must have turned into a robot. That was the only logical conclusion for how she was able to have this conversation with Rhys right now. It was the only thing that made sense anymore. She had become a mechanical robot. So I wanted to talk to you about the bachelorette party, Rhys went on, biting her lip as she looked at Scarlett with hope in her eyes. I'm sorry, what did you say? Scarlett responded shrilly. So much for robot Scarlett. She looked urgently in Pete's direction, but he, ever popular, had been swarmed by other dancers who wanted to talk to him about something he'd brought up during the last Q&A. No help was coming from that direction. Well, everything is sped up now that my dream venue is available, so I'm planning out everything right now, including the bachelorette party, and I want you to be there. She wants me to hang out with all of her friends at her bachelorette party. She wants me to watch her open a bunch of raunchy gifts that she will use with Wes, and I'll need to give her a raunchy gift. This can't possibly get any worse. Robot Scarlett transformed into deer in head Scarlett as she shook her head with fervor. Oh no, you're so sweet to ask, but no, she laughed, doing everything in her power to keep the hysteria and horror from entering her voice. Bachelorette parties aren't really It's just, I love the dances you do. You know how much I admire your style, Rhys said in earnest, ignoring Scarlett's protests as she reached out and squeezed Scarlett's hand. I'd love to hire you to teach me in my wedding party your dance moves. I was wrong. This is worse. It just got 10 times worse. Oh, I don't know if... Please, Scarlett, Lady Salty Sweetness, Rhys teased, winking at her. Please do it. I really want this for my bachelorette. You're not going to make me beg, are you? Nope. Performing at your crush's fiance's bachelorette party is 100% absolutely, definitely, never, ever happening. Stall for time. Quick. Think of something. Say anything. Scarlett opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Literally anything will do. Scarlett cleared her throat. That doesn't count. Use your words. Say something. Rhys. Quick, before she corners you. The number one thing that must not happen, cannot happen, is to agree to this ridiculous idea. Appease her. It's already as bad as it can get, so hurry up and rip off the Band-Aid. If there's ever a time to get over people-pleasing, now is your moment. I'd love to, but you'll do it. Oh, I knew you would do it. Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited. To learn from you is the dream, Rhys said, eyes sparkling as she gave Scarlett a full-body squeeze and pressed an unexpected kiss to her cheek. I'll text you the details. Okay, so it just got exponentially worse. Again. You walked right into that one. Of course she was going to cut you off before you could say, but hell will freeze over before I get involved with your bachelorette party. Maybe try again. You haven't really agreed yet. There's still a chance of getting out of this. Just stop her before she walks away. Sure, Scarlett heard herself say helplessly, and then Rhys was off, waving goodbye before she disappeared into the crowd. Wow, that was the opposite of the correct response. You've done it now, Mitchell, she muttered to herself out loud. What on earth were you thinking? And scene. There you go. That's a little sneak peek of Kiss Me, Book 8 in the Polyamorous Passions series. And shenanigans do ensue at the bachelorette party, so you should probably you should read the book so you can find out what happens next. You can grab your copy at saganmorrow.com/books, or again, visit your favorite ebook store. It is available for you to read on Kobo, Kindle, Nook, all the places. I can't wait for you to dive into this story. Happy reading. That is a wrap on today's episode. As always, you can access the show notes and the transcript of this episode at saganmorrow.com/podcast. If you would like to celebrate this book launch with me, please come hang out with me on Threads or Instagram. My handle is @SaganLives. And if you are enjoying the Author Diary Entries podcast, please take 2 minutes to rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform, or give it a share on social media so that your friends and community can tune in. Thanks so much. I appreciate you.